Well, good morning. It is March the 17th, 2025, and straight from the Highlight Caffeinated Studio, this is According to Willie B, and I, Will Bryce, am your host for the next half hour. Now, I'm hoping that you will grant me one little favor today, because what I'd like to do is because we're getting into the travel season, because we're coming up on spring and kids will be getting out of school, et cetera, and everybody gets the travel fever. So there are a few things in Texas that I would like to point out if you're heading anywhere near that state as a destination. And there are some favorites that have been my favorites for years, and I'd like to point those out and kind of go over them and kind of give you some food for thought, if you will. And being a foodie, it should be good food for thought, right? Okay, so I do want to get one thing off my plate before I dive into the episode, and that is Culinary Highway. I know y'all have seen, heard, or heard about the new venture, Culinary Highway, whether it be on our any of our social media or whatever. That first episode is going to launch next week. We finished the filming up this week and we're doing all the editing, which is taking forever. And so we'll be able to launch that first episode, and it will strictly be on our YouTube channel. It will be a 15-minute show that highlights your favorite locally owned restaurants. And we hope to accomplish at least one thing with this series, and that is to promote mom and pop independent owned restaurants, because they need all the help we can get. And it's having been in the restaurant industry pretty much my entire life. I feel like it's still my way that I can still participate without having to be in the kitchen, so to speak. But be looking for that to come out on our YouTube next week. I will be pushing and plugging that beyond all belief as we get closer and closer to launching that first episode. Okay, on to what I would like to do today. It's kind of a two or three trips into one, but I've just kind of picked out the highlight parts of it, basically the good stuff, if you will. So I've got some good places to eat, and I've got some good things to do since we're coming up on travel season. So these are some of my absolute favorites, and I figured I would just kind of bounce them back and forth between the two lists, the to eat and the to do. And you can kind of mix and match if you're anywhere near any of these areas. They come highly recommended by yours truly. Okay, so if you're going anywhere near the Houston area, just south of Houston, there's an area called Kemah Seabrook. Now, if you've never been there, there is what they call the Kemah Boardwalk. It's beyond any boardwalk that you've ever seen, in my opinion. Now, are some boardwalks in the U.S. that I haven't seen yet, so I'm just speaking on what I've seen so far. Kemah Boardwalk pretty much tops them all. There's so much to do there, and not just on the boardwalk. You can walk a couple blocks away from the boardwalk, and there are shops and restaurants and just anything that your little heart could desire. But there's some really good restaurants in that area as well. Most of the restaurants on the Kemah Boardwalk are big national chains, but there are some independents just off the boardwalk that are really good. One of those in particular I grew up with, and it's called S&W Tookies. Yes, Tookies. When I say that they have the most diverse hamburger menu, it's unreal. My favorite actually has refried beans and jalapeno peppers. And I mean, they have one that's got peanut butter and jelly. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up. But I've never had a bad burger from there. Now, on a side note, I was told a couple of weeks ago, after all these years, and they've been there as long as I can remember, and they changed their bun. And it could be that they may have been out of their regular bun that day, but if they change that bun forever, that's a sad day because they truly had a remarkable hamburger. And I love their creativity on their burger menu. It's just some of the craziest burgers you've ever seen. And items on the burger that you would never think would be good. But when I say refried beans, think of the old Frito Lay bean dip kind of take on it, and that was their in-house recipe that they put on that burger. And it was just really good, and it had a really good spicy background to it. But there's several restaurants in that area that are mom and pop. There's a Topwater Grill just a few miles down the road. That is a phenomenal seafood place that's on the water. It's been there for a number of years. They're very consistent and very good in what they do. I highly recommend that one. They have been the same today as they were, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, as far as I know. I know they've been there a long, long time. When you're down in that area, if you have never, I used to think that going to NASA to see the space shuttle stuff and all that, I used to think that was for kids. And because I'd went so many times as a kid through school field trips, etc., going as an adult was a whole different experience. And we had some friends with us that suggested it, and I'm like, going to NASA? I mean, we did that as a kid, and so, but he assured me that, hey, this is going to be a lot of fun. And it turns out that it was an absolute blast, and for two reasons. One, seeing and understanding what they had on display was a whole different take. And also the nostalgia, because that's big for me, but the nostalgia of going to NASA, having been there so many times as a kid, it really brought back a lot of memories. Now there's one particular thing that our friends pointed out, and it really caught me off guard, and I wouldn't have given it a whole lot of weight unless the other people around us, when he called it out, noticed it as well, and they absolutely accused me of that being me in that picture. I assure you, I have never worked for NASA, but there is a picture, and I'll post it on social media when this launches. But there's a picture in NASA of a guy at a control panel, and he is my absolute double. I mean, it was mind blowing how close this person looked exactly like me. Same glasses, same hair, everything. It was mind blowing. When he called it, he goes, "Hey, that's you," and I looked and I'm like, "Yeah, it looks kind of like me," joking it off, and then other people around were like, "Oh my God, that really is you." I'm like, "No, that is not me. I have never worked for NASA. Trust me." I don't, they did hire monkeys to go to space one time, but I was not in that program either. So let's just leave it at that. But NASA is a lot of fun to do, whether you're a kid or adult. So you got NASA, you got Kemah Boardwalk. There's a lot of rides and stuff on the boardwalk, roller coaster, Ferris wheel, etc., etc. So you can make a day out of Kemah Boardwalk. You could actually make the morning going to NASA and then the afternoon, evening going to the Kemah Boardwalk. So you could make a full day in that area. So those are kind of my highlights of that area. If you're going anywhere, let's say you're going through Texas and you're going to Galveston, which I loathe. But if you're going that direction, that's definitely a sidestep that you could do. That's a whole lot of fun. If you're going out towards what I would call Central Texas, and this would include Brenham, Sealy, Burton College Station area, anywhere near that, there is it is the largest antique festival in the United States. It draws over 100 100,000 people every year. And that's actually coming up at the end of this month. And that's something you can spend the entire weekend doing and still not see everything. It's insanity. In every season, they have it like, I think, three different times a year. I think, to me, the spring is the best show that they have. I certainly has got to be the largest. But you can actually just get lost, and you're going to walk and you're going to eat because there are so many food trucks with so many different options. It's just unreal. So that is definitely worth checking out if you're anywhere near that. And the actual town that it's in is called Round Top. So look it up, the Antique Festival in Round Top. I assure you, you will not be disappointed. But if you're going to go to Round Top and you get hungry, before you get to Round Top or as you leave Round Top, go through Burton. There's a couple things in this little small town, Burton. There's a cotton gin museum. There's a railroad museum. If you need coffee to keep you going, because I know you're going to, there's Neon Moon Coffee. And trust me, they roast in-house, and this is some of the best coffee you'll find in the area. And if you go in there, make sure you tell Carl I said hello, and tell him he owes you a muffin, and he can put it on my tab. Just kidding. He probably would, but I digress. It is really good coffee. It is a locally owned shop. He does roast in house, and he is very knowledgeable in the coffee industry. Now go right around the curve, and you will find yourself at Burton Shortstop. You cannot go to Burton without going to Burton Shortstop. If you're there for breakfast, they got you covered. If you're there for lunch, they definitely have you covered. They've got some of the best burgers and hot lunches in the area that you'll find. So if you want to step away from spending money on antiques for a day, this is a nice place to go chill out for a little bit and get away from the crowds and have a great burger or have a great hot lunch. Definitely a great cup of coffee, and you'll enjoy the town of Burton, I assure you. They're some of the nicest folks that I've ever run across. As you're leaving Burton, Round Top area, if you're headed down, if you go towards Sealy, before you get there, just before you get into Belleville, there's a little restaurant, and if you blink, you're going to miss it. I'm telling you, do not blink. But it's called Cochran Grill, Cochran. Chef Helen in there makes some of the best crab cakes you'll ever put in your mouth. Hands down. Hands down. She makes them from scratch, and she makes her own remoulade, and it is literally a piece of heaven outside of New Orleans. She's got a full menu. They do, it's all family. But they have a very unique menu, and this food is just off the charts. And you would not expect it when you pull up. You would not expect it. You pull up and you're thinking, okay, this is a little country restaurant, little country cafe. Everything's going to be laid back. You're going to walk inside. You're going to look at the menu, and you're like, oh, I was wrong. That's because Chef Helen's in charge. But I assure you, you will enjoy it. And you tell any of those folks, whether it's Chef Helen at Cochran Grill, whether it's Kathy at Burton Shortstop or Brody, Carl over at Neon Moon, you tell them I sent you. And I promise you they'll take good care of you. If you go out through Sealy, there's a barbecue place right there on just off of 290. And it's called Hinz's, Hinzes. Been eating that barbecue for years. Absolutely one of my favorites. You make sure you want to check them out and tell them I said hello. But very good barbecue, very good food. They've got they do more than just barbecue. They do a lot of catering, but very good food. And if you have room for dessert, which I doubt, but if you have room for dessert, they make a bourbon pecan pie. And just all I'm saying is just trust me on that. Even if you have to take it with you, put it in your pocket. I don't care. But get some to go. If you're going anywhere through East Texas, if you get up around toward the headed like you're headed toward Louisiana. There's a little town called Lufkin. Now, Lufkin has probably one of the most unique zoos that you'll ever find in a small town. Now, the zoo in Lufkin, I promise it's like $10 admission, and every time that I've ever been there, they're always working on that zoo. They are always improving. They're always adding. They're always, updating that zoo. And they've got some new features coming that I would think would probably be ready by end of summer. That are just really putting that zoo to the top of the map. And it's just not the size zoo you would expect in a small town. But you definitely got to check out the Lufkin Zoo. One other place I did forget to mention. So if you're going to be in Burton, you're going to go to Belleville and all that, that means you're going to be near Brenham. Now, why is Brenham important? Why did I skip that? Because that is where Bluebell is made. And we all know that Bluebell is the absolute, hands down, best ice cream on the planet, bar none. Spoken like a true Texan. So I'm just going to leave that there because I know there are people that will argue with me and they'll say, no, 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 you haven't tried Bob's ice cream. You haven't tried Kathy's ice cream. Hey, it's Bluebell. Hands down, Bluebell is and hey, this is an opinionated show and that's my opinion, but I really think my opinion has a lot of weight on this one. But Bluebell is in Brenham, and they do daily tours, so and you get free samples. I mean, come on. What's better than that? Taking a tour of an ice cream place and getting a free sample of Bluebell? I mean, that's almost like it's your birthday. But make sure you check that out. On Lufkin, as far as things to do, that's pretty much the gamut of it is the Lufkin Zoo. But you can easily spend, I would say, a full half day at that zoo. It's not one of these enormous zoos where you can spend the entire day. But you can definitely spend a half a day at Lufkin Zoo and very enjoyable. They got a train, steam-powered train that'll take you around the park. That is really cool. I think the only time it doesn't run if it's raining, but very cool. We're checking out for sure. If you get hungry while you're going through Lufkin, there's a place in Lufkin called Tia Juanita's Fish Camp. If you like true fajitas, I'm not talking about some other state's version of fajitas. I'm talking about if you like true Texas fajitas, you will not find any better fajita than at Tia Juanita's Fish Camp. I'm telling you, it's kind of a seafood menu with kind of a Mexican food flair to it, if you will. I guess is the best way I can describe it. It's kind of out there. It's kind of different. They have a lot of the traditional stuff, but I'm telling you, if you remotely like fajitas, I would drive 50 miles out of my way to go get those fajitas. They're the most tender, melt in your mouth, flavorful fajitas you will ever eat. And the sizzle that comes off of those fajitas is it's unreal. I'll tell you what I'll do. I've got a little snapshot of those. I'll post them as well. You tell me what you think. And if you wind up licking their phone screen, don't blame me. I warned you. If you like tamales, pork or beef, there is a place in Lufkin called La Unica, Launica. They do phenomenal breakfast tacos, and that's kind of a big Texas thing. But if you like breakfast tacos, they make some of the best. But now their tamales, they are absolutely phenomenal. And I'm sure because of rising costs of food and stuff like that, they're they're a little more pricey than what I remembered them being. But you know what? It was still worth it. I digress on that. It's just, the cost of everything is just going crazy. But and the restaurants are definitely feeling it. But They still have some of the best tamales I've ever put in my mouth, especially I'll put it this way, outside of San Antonio, because there are some tamales in San Antonio that will literally make you lick your eyebrows until the hair falls out. I cannot. I will have to do an episode on San Antonio to give you some clues on that, because there is some really good food in San Antonio. But there's a couple of tamale places down there that just, you will have dreams about those tamales. But the ones at La Unica are really good. I'd like a tamale to be really greasy, and those have just the right amount of grease. I can't make this stuff up. It's not my fault. So that's some of the highlights of the different areas. But there's so much to do, and there's so much to eat out there, and there's some really, really good food out there, and that's kind of the leading into the culinary highway again. That's the whole purpose of that. I see a lot of food reviews on social media, and they will literally review McDonald's. I'm not gonna. I won't even review a national chain. I want to really highlight mom and pop restaurants, and not every mom and pop restaurant. When I tell you to go somewhere to eat, there are those of you out there listening to me that are going to be like, that must really be good. And so I'm telling you, if I tell you to go somewhere and I tell you the food is just off the chain, that you have to go out of your way, you have to spend extra gas, you have to spend extra miles, you have to pedal your bicycle harder and faster to go, then that's what I'm telling you. It is worth the drive. It is worth the trip. And that's the kind of food that we're looking for. We're looking for that experience. And the food that I just listed out here for you, every one of these places is absolutely phenomenal when it comes to food. This first episode that we did in Culinary Highway was on Damp Good Barbecue. I'm 59 years old, and that is and I grew up in Texas, and that was the absolute best brisket that I have ever put in my mouth in my entire life. And folks, I'm telling you, that's the kind of food we should be searching out. That's the kind of food experience that we need to be searching for, because that's what's going to give you the understanding of why there are foodies in the world that will go out of their way to go get something that good. But be looking for that to launch next week. That's some of the highlights of Texas that I think you will really enjoy, and I hope you do. If you check any of them out, and be sure and drop me a message or on social media or something. Let me know what you thought. I always like to hear from different people when I tell them something is good or bad or ugly. They go check it out, and then I promise you, they send me messages and they're like, okay, well, you weren't lying about that. Or, sometimes people do, they're like, no, you're wrong on this one. This one over here is better. And I'm thinking, nope, I've had that one. It's not. But that, it's opinionated, right? So make sure you check us out on all of our social media, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. And again, you got to go check out our website, www.accordingtowillieb.com. And you'll find all the upcoming events and news and anything that your little heart could desire right there, all in one episode. And until I talk to you again next week, and I think we're going to be talking about going to Tahoe. Yeah. Have you ever been to Tahoe? It's a really beautiful town. So I think we're going to talk about that next week. So make sure you stay tuned. Until that time, caffeinate and conquer. I greatly appreciate you listening. Until next week, have a great day. Bye-bye.